So we are continuing reading from Manah Siksha by Raghunath Das Goswami. Instructions to the mind, which are very important for the sadhakas who are trying to perfect their life. Gurau goste gostalishu sujane bhushara Gurau goste gostalishu sujane pusuragane samantra senamne Brajanavayo vadvanda sharane sadadambam hitva kururatim apurvam atitaram aye santar bratas chatubhiradiya chadri tapadam. Praying to the mind or imploring to the mind with sweet words that please take shelter of the spiritual master, of Brajadham, the Brijavasis, the Vaishnavas respecting the Brahmanas, giving up all pride, chanting the holy names and the Gayatri mantras. In this way, taking shelter of the divine couple. Then instructing that we should take shelter of Mahaprabhu in order to achieve the goal of the shelter of the divine couple, remembering the associates of Mahaprabhu, especially Sarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami, and the spiritual master who is very dear to Mahaprabhu and to Krishna. So text number 7. Pratishtha sadrista sapacha ramani meridinate katam sadhu prema sprishati suchir itan manah sadatam sevasa prabodhaita samantam matulam yadatam niksasya tvaritam ihatam veshayati saha. Addressing the mind, oh my mind. How can pure divine love appear in my heart as long as the shameless, dog-eating, outcast woman of the desire for prestige is audaciously dancing there? Therefore, always remember and serve the immeasurably powerful commanders of the army of Sri Krishna, the beloved devotees of the Lord. They will at once banish this outcast woman and initiate the flow of immaculate Braja Prem in your heart. So the sadhakas, the devotees, performing devotional service, they have to be aware of these different difficulties which are arising in one's own mind. As basically we know also, the 6 enemies are there: lust, anger, greed, and then illusion, madness and envy. So the different manifestations of there, or combination of these, and so that is very vividly explained in these verses also of the Manah Siksha. So even though one may have given up sense enjoyment to some extent, still one can see that and these difficulties arise, as explained specifically now in this verse, Drištva, so there's the commentaries are there, especially of Bhaktivinoda Thakur elaborating on the meaning of this verse. The commentary by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And so this is explained there. So the Bhajan Darpan is there, the commentary of Bhaktivinoda Thakur to most of the verses. Tristva sa pacha ramani pratishtha sa. The desire for prestige is an audacious dog-eating outcast woman. So sapacha, so that refers to a dog eater. So that is a low class person. So prestige, the desire for prestige, even though one may be performing devotional service even for many years, and one may endeavor to control the mind and the senses, give up sense gratification. But this, the prestige, that is not so easy to give up. So basically gross material sense gratification is there, enjoying the senses, like eating nicely and having a nice place to stay, and then having desire for many material things. But then more subtle is if one actually is trying to be recognized by others. But that has to be given up ultimately also. But it is easier to give up the gross enjoyment than the subtle enjoyment. As even it is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, or other places. But one has to try also to control the mind, or as here Ravindra Das Goswami is addressing the mind, praying to the mind, begging the mind to please give up all these unwanted thoughts, or as explained here. So the desire for prestige. So subtle desire is there to be recognized as a great devotee, to want to have a position in the Vaishnav Samaj, in the society of the Vaishnavas. So this is so that is much more subtle, but that has to be also given up for the pleasure of the Lord, something special that satisfies the spiritual master. And then even some recognition may be there then. One needs some encouragement that is there also in one's life, because the difficulties are there. So it is natural that one waits for the satisfaction of the Lord, and then for one's endeavor being then recognized or appreciated. Gross elements we can see easily, most like earth, water, fire. Air is more difficult to see, but we can understand the presence of air, or ether, even more subtle. But more subtle than that is the mind. It becomes more and more subtle. And most Gauranga of Radha and Krishna. So that is the real ego. But false ego is then wanting to be a great devotee, be recognized. So that has to be avoided. So there's a fine line there. So the the ego is very, very subtle, the false ego. At the same time, so these material elements are there, so false ego most subtle. But then it is explained in the scriptures, in the Bhagavatam also, that for example there's a covering of the universe. And so just like there's a covering of the soul with these elements. And yeah, so here for the body, for the soul, so most subtle is the ego, and then the different elements are there, and then gross are the gross body, earth, water, mainly made of earth and water, and then some fire is there, but mostly the earth and water element are there. So, but in the covering of the universe, that is explained, so there's a layer there of first the earth is there, covering, and then 10 times bigger than that will be covering of water, and the next is fire, that is 10 times bigger than the water, and then after that the air, that is 10 times bigger, and the covering. And then ether is 10 times bigger than air, and then the mind, the covering of the mind, which is covering of the universe, is 10 times bigger, and the intelligence is 10 times bigger, and the biggest is the false ego, the covering of the false ego. And therefore, even you can see all the ego is most subtle, but sometimes the ego is very, very thick, very big, and so the devotee, so if somebody is being glorified or is being recognized, then many times then the ego is there. Oh, he's being glorified, and why not me? And then the ego is disturbed there, the false ego. Or somebody is trying to tell us something if we have done something which is not right, but the false ego is usually not ready to accept. So that is a challenge, but we have to try to get some transcendental intelligence by which we can then understand between the real ego and the false ego. And we can understand that this thinking is not proper, or that thinking is not proper. So because of course the false ego is there, and then the material intelligence is there, and so with the material intelligence, so how we can overcome this false ego? It is not possible. But we have to pray for sadhubuddhi, for transcendental intelligence. So we pray to the spiritual master, we pray to Mahaprabhu, we pray to Krishna, that we can get sadhubuddhi, transcendental intelligence, and by which we can then make proper decisions, by which we can overcome these difficulties. And here in this case, the pratishtha, pratisthasha, so it is mentioned here. Pratishtha, and it is the prestige, false prestige is there. And asha, desire, and desire to be recognized as a big devotee. Yes.
So, Prabhuji, question is that, so is self-respect is also a kind of false ego?
So self-respect, is that also kind of false ego?
Yes.
So just as it's explained, so it is very subtle. For example, we can even see the pure devotees, they have some transcendental pride. Oh, I'm a servant of, for example, of my spiritual master. And one will be feeling some pride. I'm very fortunate. My spiritual master is such a wonderful devotee, and I'm his disciple, I'm his servant. So one may have some pride. But as explained, so it is very subtle, and one has to be very careful. There's a spiritual, so there's a subtle line between the spiritual consciousness and material consciousness. So it is subtle, and one has to be careful. That one has the proper consciousness, that the pure emotions are there. In the conditioned state it is difficult. Sometimes the consciousness is somewhat pure and sometimes it is a little contaminated. Sometimes the emotions are proper and sometimes they are not proper. So there is a very fine line. Therefore we have to pray always also to the spiritual master, to Mahaprabhu, that we may have the proper consciousness, that we are not overcome by the false ego and the material consciousness, material intelligence, material mind. So very fine line, and we have to be careful. So in other words, it can be all right to think that I'm very fortunate to be a devotee of ISKCON, of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, so that we can have, and if you are humble and respectful, then it is all right. If you think I'm very fortunate to be in ISKCON. But then if you think, and so it is subtle, but then if you think, yes, I'm very fortunate to be in ISKCON, and then some pride may be there, which is then not pure. So there's a pure pride and there's material pride. If one is humble and then respectful, I'm so fortunate to be in ISKCON and by Prabhupada's mercy. But nevertheless also I see there are so many other wonderful devotees. I see here in Vrindavan and the devotees of the Society of Bhaktisiddhanta, the Gaudiya Math. Oh, there are such nice devotees also. And then the Brijabasis, the Goswamis of Radharaman temple, they're nicely worshipping Radharaman, and they're also doing some preaching. They're such wonderful devotees. And the devotees from the Nimbarka Sampradaya, they're doing the sadhana. Maybe it is a little different than ours, but still they are accepting Krishna as the Lord. So wonderful. But we are very fortunate to be in ISKCON because that movement is empowered, and in that movement, so Srila Prabhupada, so he established that movement, and he spread Krishna consciousness all over the world by the mercy of Mahaprabhu. And who also told Prithivityacha yatta nagaradigram sarvata prachar hoiva moranam, that in every town and village my name will be spread. And Prithivite ache, Prithivi, on this planet, Prithivite means in this planet. In this planet Earth, so in every town and village, means in the whole world, in every town and village, my name will be chanted. So then A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he went all over the world, and then his disciples then helped him and distributing books everywhere, and you can find books everywhere. Even you go to any place, Africa or Siberia, you will find some devotees. You go to Brazil, and there's the big forest there with the Amazon River. In the jungle, you will also find somebody with a book. One time there was one of his sannyasis was there going by boat on a kind of, some preaching also, and some devotees and doing Harinam and almost having some books, and they were thinking, we go to the jungle and distribute some books. And then they saw some inhabitants of the jungle, and they wanted to distribute books, and they showed, oh, we already have the book. So in this way, some pride may be there, that is all right. If the humility is there and the respect for others. But then there's another pride which is there, which is material. Although one may be there as a devotee, but that is then a neophyte devotee. I'm in ISKCON. Yes, Prabhupada is the only guru who is now preaching, who was preaching in the recent years, and the disciples of Prabhupada and the disciples of Prabhupada, the only one preachings. All the others, they are just like other institutions, they are simply ringing the bells, and they're not doing really any preaching, and they're just all neophyte devotees. We are the only one who are actually preaching Krishna consciousness. So this is known as false pride, even though one may be there as a devotee. So there's a difference between genuine pride, transcendental pride, and then there's a false pride. So it is a little subtle, but one who is actually genuinely and seriously engaged in devotional service, so he will always be humble and respectful and not think that I'm the only devotee and our institution is the only institution who is preaching. He will not think like this. So we have to see. So there's a genuine mood, and then there's the one which is contaminated. So, is that all right?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
So just one more question.
One more question. Yeah.
So if a devotee gets hurt because some other devotees disrespect him in front of some.
If somebody is disrespecting a devotee in front of others, he gets hurt.
And so if he is getting hurt, is that because of his false ego, some little false ego or some ego, or he should not get hurt at all because thinking that he's insignificant anyway? So
So the question is, if he's getting hurt, is that also due to the false ego? Again, there it depends. But one may be genuinely also hurt and feeling, for example, a little sad that somebody is saying something about him, or maybe about his spiritual master, about his institution, and then he may feel hurt also, which may be genuine. So because we have to understand that the feelings are there, transcendental feelings. That is mentioned also, the abhichari bhav, which are coming and going. And the pure devotees also. But Krishna is in the center. And then it is transcendental, it is pure. If Krishna is not in the center, or is there some ulterior motive, and then actually becomes material. So that we have to see. But one can also, for example, again, we can see even the pure devotees, or even we can see the gopis also, and the gopis in Radharani's group and the gopis in Chandravali's group, they're completely transcendental. But there's some transcendental rivalry there also. And sometimes they are speaking harsh about each other. In transcendental competition with Krishna in the center, with pure love. But these feelings are there then. And then sometimes, so one gopi of Radharani's group is speaking bad about, in front of others, about another gopi from Chandravali's group, and and then they will feel hurt also, or vice versa. They may be there. So, but these are transcendental emotions, transcendental feelings. So similarly, even for the sadhaka, so the transcendental feelings are there. And so sometimes, different sadhakas may be there, and they have different moods, or they may be in different groups, and then sometimes somebody is saying something and one may be also feeling hurt. That may be there and may be genuine. But we have to be very introspective, and we have to use our intelligence, or pray for good intelligence, so we can analyze our consciousness, our heart. But basically what we have to do, we have to simply try to have Krishna the sender, depend on Krishna, and then and especially then also if something is there and emotions may be there and we may be feeling hurt, then we just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And then the feeling may not be completely pure, but if Krishna is at the center, or we're chanting the holy names, or we try sincerely to have genuine feelings, then even though the feelings may not be pure, which is there, if one is not a pure devotee, the feelings are not pure, not possible. But if the genuine attempt is there to be pure as much as possible, then one will be purified. And the emotions will be purified, the consciousness will be purified, the senses will be purified. So you don't have to worry too much. But you just keep Krishna in the center, and you try to be always dedicated with the body, with the mind, the consciousness, and in words. You try to be dedicated to the service of the Lord, and then you are fine. Okay? No problem. Yes?
So, for example, if a neophyte devotee is there and he or she is not completely surrendered to Krishna. And
if a neophyte devotee is there and is not completely surrendered to Krishna,
and they are trying, but
they are trying
because they are not that much advanced. So sometimes they might get some inspiration to do something, but how can they ensure that it's really an inspiration from Krishna, or it's just minds going on?
So then they are inspired to do something. So how to know if it is actually coming from Krishna?
Or is it actually coming
or it is coming from the mind? Yes. Again there, basically, in the conditioned state, it is almost impossible to fully surrender. It is not possible. Who is fully surrendered? That is only the pure devotee. Those who are highly advanced, they are fully surrendered. All others, the sadhakas who are practicing, their surrender is partial. And even there, for example, the humility which is there, it is kacha, it is not ripe, it is unripe. But then as you go on, then the humility becomes ripe, pakva dainatva. And then similarly also the faith will be right. But in the beginning, komal shraddha is there. The faith is soft. And then a little problem, and the faith is going down. But if one is more advanced, whatever is happening, but the faith in Guru, Gauranga, and Krishna will always be there. And then similarly, then one will be able to surrender in purified consciousness, then one will be able to fully surrender. But in the conditioned state, under the modes of material nature, it is not possible to fully surrender. But one is trying to surrender with the body, and then by engaging devotional service, offering obeisances to Guru, Gauranga, and Krishna, by glorifying the Lord, by trying to do things for the Lord's pleasure, not for our own pleasure. So the devotee practicing the sadhaka, he simply has to endeavor. And he may not be able to surrender. And it may not be directly from Krishna, the inspiration, but it may be coming from the consciousness, which may not be pure. But if Krishna is in the center, then it will be purified. If one is trying sincerely, okay, I should do for Krishna's pleasure. At the same time, there may be some hidden motive also, And maybe also to be recognized. I do this, okay, for Krishna. At the same time, okay, let me distribute books. But then I should become number one in distributing books. So it's there, one wants to surrender and distribute books because it is pleasing to Prabhupada, book marathon there, we should distribute books. And then, but at the same time, then the ego may come, okay, but I should distribute the most books. And this one is also distributing many books, but I should do more books. And so it is very, very subtle. And then if he's more successful, then one will feel upset and even try to pull him down and thinking, well, actually, my health was not so good. And also, actually, I think he was cheating. He was taking the help of this or that person or something. So many interpretations may be there in the mind, just trying to put that devotee down and put ourselves up. So it is very subtle, and one has to be careful. And but basically, again, one has to simply try sincerely and with all humility. So that is important to try to be humble, tolerant, and respectful towards others, and then understanding one's shortcomings. And sometimes the devotee also, they will see that the mind is there, and oh yes, I want to be recognized. The sincere devotee many times who is aspiring to become completely pure, many times he can see, oh yes, now the desire is there to be recognized, as whatever, okay, the best book distributor, or good kirtaniya, or the best cook, that I'm making the best preparations. My sweet rice are so nice, and nobody can cook as nice as me, or something so different. And devotees with different then desires may be there, and aspirations. So it is not so easy to check that and to control, but one has to try. And then if one is seeing that the ego is there and the desire for prestige is there, but then one should just address the mind as Raghunath Das Goswami is there. So therefore he has given these verses, so we should regularly read them and then think about that. Oh mind, how can pure divine love appear in my heart? And we want pure divine love for Mahaprabhu and Krishna. So if that dog eating dog, that is not good. An outcast woman. So that is the desire for prestige. That is like Ramani. So that is one who tries to enjoy, usually outside the marital life. So like a prostitute, Vaishya. So that is not good. Yeah, so we have to speak to the mind, give that up, that nonsense, trying to have this false prestige. So if the desire for honor and distinction is there, so then it will not be possible to have this pure love for Krishna. And so therefore we have to then pray to Mahaprabhu, to Krishna, so that we can become free from that, so that we can be free from the influence of the false ego and the material mind, material consciousness. So it is not easy, but one has to try one's best. And then eventually one will be able to overcome all these obstacles which are there. Okay? So, Nirmal Sadhu Prem. So that is a desire to have this pure, Nirmal. Mal means some contamination. Nirmal, which without contamination, unalloyed love for Krishna. So that is also mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Samyam masrinita svanto mamatvatishayam kitaha bhavasa eva sandratma budhai prema nigadyate. So the devotees who are more advanced, so their heart becomes very soft and it is melting, and then this transcendental love will be there, transcendental bliss in the loving exchange with Krishna. And then one will have mamata towards Krishna, possessiveness, that Krishna is my beloved, Krishna is mine. So one should pray that we can overcome this material mind. Prabhu Daita Autalu Samanta. So Prabhu Daita, the servants of the Lord, so they are there to help us. So we should. So Samanta means a general or commander of the army. So the dear devotees of the Lord, the pure devotees, so they are there to lead the general devotees on the path of spiritual life. And so therefore we should cry out to them and to please help us. And therefore is he saying also we should remember them and we should serve the advanced devotees who are very dear to Krishna, and they will help us to kick out this desire for prestige, the outcast woman dancing in the mind. So we have to take shelter of the devotees of the Lord, and then it will be possible. Because the advanced devotees, so they are empowered, they have love for Krishna, so in their association, so sometimes some drops of transcendental emotions will come to us. Therefore we also pray every day to the spiritual master, Prema Bhakti Yaha Hoite Avidya Vinashayate. From them prema bhakti is emanating, and by this ignorance is destroyed. So therefore it is recommended we should always be in the association of the sadhus, the spiritual master, the advanced devotees. And in their association it is a little easier to advance. And if they are not present, then we have to cry. We have to pray to them, and then they may also manifest in the heart, and then we can so be in their association. So therefore the devotees, so they will always try to be in the association of the advanced devotees, and they will pray, they will cry to the spiritual master, to the previous acharyas, so that they can feel their presence, be in their presence. And by doing so, then there's actually reciprocation, and then it becomes a reality. And one can be in the association always of the spiritual master and the previous acharyas. And then it is possible to be in the association of the Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his associates. Without all the previous acharyas, we can never truly approach Mahaprabhu. So we need the mercy of the spiritual master, the previous acharyas, the associates of the Lord, And then we can be in the association of Mahaprabhu. And then it is possible to be successful. And then it is possible to enter the realm of Braj. And then one can have the association of the eternal associates. And especially then the gopis, the manjaris. And then we can gain entrance into the service of the divine couple. Then we can satisfy Krishna by the mercy of Srimati Radharani. So, Aradanam Sarvesham Vishnu Aradanam Param Tasmat Paratam Devi Tadyanam Samarchanam. So there is a famous verse by Lord Shiva speaking to Parvati Devi that so he's explaining that worship of Vishnu, that is fine, but even greater than that is worshipping those who are that which is connected to Krishna. So his devotees and even the paraphernalia of the Lord, Tadiya. And even Krishna one time, that is mentioned Padma Purana, he told Arjuna that one who says, I'm a devotee of Krishna, he is not really my devotee. But the one who is saying, I'm the devotee of Krishna, he is really my devotee. So we have to take shelter of the devotees of Krishna. And then it is possible to be recognized by Krishna. And then it is possible to be always properly situated. Also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is mentioned that Bhakta Pada Duli Ara Bhakta Pada Jal Bhakta Bhukta Vashesha Tina Mahabal Ei Tina Sevahaita Krishna Premahai Puna Puna Sarva Shasta Pukariya Kai. So it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Antalila. So the three things are very powerful. Mahabhal. And Bhal means strength. Bal. Maha, very, very powerful. So the dust, Bhakta Padaduli, the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees. Bhakta Padajal, the water which has washed the lotus feet of the devotees. And Bhakta Bhukta Vashesh, and the remnants of the devotees. So that is very powerful. The Lord's remnants, that is known as Mahaprasad, which is offered to Krishna, and Krishna has accepted. Adaramrit, the nectar from which has touched Krishna's lips, the Mahaprasad, that is very powerful. But then it is explained that the great power of the Mahaprasad, when the great devotees have accepted the Mahaprasad, if they live something, so that is known as Mahaprasad. So that is very, very powerful, because the devotees are fully absorbed in the service of the Lord, and by their mercy then one can also become qualified to nicely serve the divine couple. So therefore, so here is recommending to serve the devotees of the Lord, to remember the devotees of the Lord, to cry out to the devotees, because alone it is not possible to overcome the external energy, the three modes of material nature, and this enemies of the mind are there, and this deceit, this hypocrisy, the desire for name, fame, and glory. Name, fame, glory. So we should try to give that up in the material world. So the materialistic persons, they are after sense gratification, gross or subtle also. Somebody wants to become famous, have a name, fame, and glory, to become a star, this Hollywood or Bollywood or whatever. But then as devotees, we are giving up all these things, sense enjoyment and name, fame, and glory. But if we then as a devotee again engage in sense gratification, and again we want name, fame and glory, the same old story, no, then we have to give up. Otherwise pure love will never be there for Krishna. So, but we try. So we should try, and then eventually we'll be able to be properly situated, and then to be able to nicely engage in devotional service without being too much disturbed by the mind, which is always saying something, right? Always there, chanting japa, and then the mind saying something, and then from this side, from that side. And then, yeah, so we have to tell the mind, okay, give me a break. Let me chant now. And let me just try to remember Krishna. So therefore these prayers are there to the mind. And yeah, then we have to take shelter, as explained here. Because alone, if you're there chanting Hare Krishna, the mind is there. Because no, they're the best friend. So, and then it's taking many forms also. And then alone is difficult. Then you have to pray to the spiritual master, the previous acharyas. And then when we are there in their association with the mind, what he can do? Nothing. If the spiritual master is there in the consciousness, if the previous acharyas, Rupa Goswami, are there in the mind, so if you pray to them, remember them, then actually they can manifest. Ultimately they will manifest. Seeing the devotee who is sincere, then they will manifest, and then one is protected from the mind, which is ultimately the only enemy for the jiva. The only problem for the jiva is the own mind and material consciousness, the false ego. That's the only problem. If one is properly situated in the consciousness that I'm an insignificant servant of Guru Gauranga, Krishna, or Srimati Radharani. So if one has that consciousness and one is so then praying to the spiritual master, to the devotees, then it is possible to be transcendently situated. And then it is possible not to be influenced by the modes of material nature, by the false ego, by the material mind. So one has to constantly endeavor to be properly situated. One has to constantly take shelter, surrender to Guru Gauranga and Krishna. So it is a conscious effort. And not only our effort, but then you have to pray for the mercy, because only our endeavor, that is not sufficient, but we have to get the mercy from above. So from the devotees and then from the Lord, then one can be properly situated. So daily, as it is daily, challenge is there, and so actually throughout the day we have to endeavor to be properly situated, and so constant endeavor has to be there, and then we may be successful, and ultimately we will be successful in our endeavor by the mercy of Guru Gauranga and Krishna. Hare Krishna.
One question.
One question.
So for example, we have to for now. For example, I am with you, and we are in the association of.
Now we are in the association of the devotees. Yes.
So I can be in the mode of goodness.
Yes.
But But then when I'll go back home, I know that there will come a time when I'll be frustrated, irritated,
okay. Yes.
and then I will again fall into mode of ignorance. So how to remember what you just said? What for this whole
yes.
class? How to
yes.
remember?
How to remember at that time when you are at home?
Yes, and do not get irritated or frustrated.
Yes. Well, so yes, that's what has to be done is, so in the association of the devotees, the spiritual master then you're hearing the lecture, and then one is okay. Yeah. And then it is also, there's one beautiful verse in the Bhagavatam. Of course, many beautiful verses are there, so many. And it's mentioned there by hearing the Bhagavatam, then one becomes free from the miseries of this material existence. And Prabhupada is writing that for the time being, at least during the class, one is free from the miseries. But then afterwards, because modes of nature are there, then the possibility, every chance is there to be again covered. So therefore one has to try to be always in the association with the devotees. One has to try to always hear the Bhagavatam or the scriptures, and one has to try to be always engaged in serving the Lord, and one has to try to always pray, and then you can be okay. So let's say now the katha is going on, and then one is feeling a little free from modes of material nature, and then afterwards you have to go home, you're on the bike and vroom, vroom, vroom. But then you have to just also continue chanting even while you're on the bike. We should be always humble, tolerant and respectful, and always chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So while eating, while driving, while walking, even while sleeping, and if you wake up, then you should try to chant. And then you will be protected. And when you're chanting, so then again, so sometimes, it is Nama Yagya Mahayagya. Kali Kalmashanashanam, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prityatam, Nama Yagya Samarpanam. Nama Yagya, we do this Nama Yagya, Samarpanam, you're offering that. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prityartam. For the pleasure of Mahaprabhu, we do that. So it is a yagya. Yagya means a sacrifice, not only fire sacrifice, but any sacrifice that is a yagya, like Sankirtan yagya. And so doing something which is not so easy. So that is a sacrifice. Sacrificing, so many things may be there. So even chanting the holy names, it is known as yagya, Sankirtan yagya. And maybe together and then going for Harinam Sankirtan, and then people sometimes not favorable, and sometimes even, sometimes even it happened previously, maybe now not so much, but still even now sometimes some envious people are there and they are saying bad things, or sometimes throwing some tomatoes or something, and then we have to tolerate and we have to go on. So it is a struggle always there in this material world, individually or collectively even sometimes. But if you're together with others, sometimes it's a little easier. But ultimately we should see that, and ultimately we're never alone. So even if we are sitting alone, externally speaking, but then we should remember at that time when we are chanting the spiritual master, we should remember these previous acharyas, and then you should pray to them. And when you do that, then actually you're with them. And as mentioned, if you remember Vrindavan, that is practically almost as good as being in Vrindavan. Sometimes somebody may be in Vrindavan but is thinking about sense gratification. Or sometimes even pujaris here thinking I should go to America. Not now because of lockdown or the situation of the coronavirus, but before that. I want to go to America, being in Vrindavan. It doesn't make sense, but still, it is nonsense, but still sometimes it happens. Whereas somebody may not be in Vrindavan physically, but thinking about Vrindavan. Oh, I wish I could be in Vrindavan. Oh, it is where we have to be in Vrindavan. When will be there that I can go back to Vrindavan? When can I come and just stay in Vrindavan for the rest of my life? Many devotees in the West, they're thinking like this. And they're asking me also, please pray when I can, so that I can come here and stay here. So by thinking then they're actually almost in Vrindavan. And if one is pure, then one is in Vrindavan wherever one is. So then also, so when you think about the spiritual master, then actually the spiritual master will be present there. If you're thinking sincerely, and he will be there. And then you don't have to worry, then you can be protected. And then you have to speak of you have to think of the previous acharyas also, together. Because even the spiritual master, he's not alone. He's thinking about his spiritual master, and his spiritual master, and Rupa Goswami, in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. All the previous acharyas, they are meditating on Rupa Goswami, Rupa Manjari, while chanting also. And then they can feel their presence, and then no maya, no material mind. So one has to practice. So on a daily basis. And then, but in the beginning stage it is not easy, because the consciousness is not pure, but one has to continue day by day and day by day, year by year, and then eventually then something will be there. And then you can be successful in your attempt. Utsanishchadaryat, we have to be enthusiastic, one has to be fixed, and one has to be patient. But always engage in devotional activities, give a bad association, sato vritti, and be in the good association, then bhakti prasiddhati, then bhakti will be successful. Okay? Hare Krishna.
Krishna Kirtana Gana Natana Pano